Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the McMaster's Chronicles. I'm Jonathan,
And I'm Joy.
and today we're going to talk about something that was constantly through the church that we're in, the organization that we're in, which is the continual pushing of communication in a very non like normal way. And they took, so basically, to give a little background, and you probably can give some background on this too better than I can, but like they took the scripture from Acts where it talks about the church in that day communicating daily.
Do good and communicate. One of them was also, I think, Hebrews, do good and communicate, and then another one was communicate daily.
Yeah. So that's where like Twitter at the time and then Slack became like our communication tool as a church. But that wasn't really the only communication.
And often what communication would mean is if you didn't share enough extreme personal detail about your life, then that means that you were either trying to conceal some sin, some dark, deep-rooted sin in your life, or like it was always, at least in my life, the top sin that I committed, which it wasn't really a sin, but like my top offense in that organization was not communicating, because I learned that if you did communicate, bad things happen to you. But also, if you don't communicate, then you get in trouble. Bad things happen to you, and you get in trouble.
Yeah,
you get in trouble for not saying everything that you have to say. But come to find out, communication and vulnerabilities are actually how narcissists abuse and use people, and they prey instead of it being like a normal relationship, and you can be like, hey, this bothered me when you did that, or I'm struggling with this thing and I need help with this thing, or just any of those things. Instead of it being that, it actually is an opportunity for them when you come to them in secrecy, not really secrecy, but when you come to them in confidence that the information that you're sharing is sensitive. When you come to them, they use it to further harm you, attack you, go after you. They'll bring it up in sermons. Sometimes they'll talk to you it's straight up in a sermon. They'll walk up to you and they'll assault you verbally, or they will passive aggressively mention you through the sermon, or they'll passive aggressively mention you on Slack or Twitter, and
directly
mention you in front of everybody. So it's a public shaming. So something that you tell in private is a public shame and so it's very, very damaging. But the trap that you can fall into in there, which we all did, is that you get in trouble. At first, you don't, at least this is my story. So my story is, I didn't really like them. I didn't really trust them. I've been through a lot. And I'm going through a lot. And the way I tried to keep myself protected was not sharing very much information. But then I would get in trouble if I didn't. So then there's times where I was like, okay, I'm going to share this because it's the right thing to do, and I don't want to be disobedient. And then when I share it, it turns into something extremely horrible. Case in point, the non-consensual sex text message, the non-consensual sex sermon, very secret private details of my life were on full display because it wasn't godly. It wasn't them wanting to act as a godly body and anything like that. It was actually meant as a control tactic to dominate, shame, and embarrass you. And so it's come to our attention that these people that we've escaped from, these people that we left, this group that we left, is going back at it with this whole communication thing.
I want to say something about the communication to kind of give like a foundation to it too, because like when you talk about communication, it's not just like talking to somebody or posting on Slack or whatever. It's like you said, it's you have to give certain level of depth in what you're saying. But not only that, it's like you have to for years, ever since I was in college, I had to write an email every single day to the pastors telling them about my day, what I was doing, what was going on. So that was the communicating daily thing that they did. Then you have to post on Slack or Twitter. Then you have to also communicate with all of the pastors. And there were 4 pastors in there eventually.
Oh, yes.
And so like if you communicate with one of them, but you don't communicate with another one, then you're not communicating with everybody. And it's not direct communication. And then the one would say like, oh, nobody wants to talk to me or whatever. And he wouldn't actually reach out to anybody to communicate with them. He would just say, you're not talking to me. But he was one of 4. So it was like, and then you're supposed to communicate with all of the other men or women in the church every day about everything that you're doing and going on. So it was like almost got to the point, and they would say, well, no, Slack is for that. Well, you're not going to communicate like very practical things through Slack. Like you need to call somebody, you need to text somebody, you need direct communication, you need quick things whenever you're getting things done. But they were like, oh, well, Slack is supposed to be where you communicate with everybody. But it was just very impossible to communicate as much as they were saying you needed to communicate. And
it's something they could always get you with.
And then you also had to communicate while in church, as in like you had to pray or you had to go up and share testimony or you had to whatever. And it wasn't like this. It was like this thing of like, if somebody said it, and we know this is happening now, if somebody said, does anybody have a testimony in the room? You better have a testimony. Otherwise, you're going to get beat down for why didn't you come?
And then sometimes you just have to come up with a testimony.
Yeah. Because like the thing is
I got nothing. I'm scared. I'm scared to be here.
Right, but then
that's my testimony.
Why don't you talk about what they say when you?
So then, when you are vulnerable and you say, "I'm scared," like when you're like, "Hey, I'm noticing this is happening, and this is kind of weird, and this is kind of messed up," and you tell them that, then they do the Darville. Then they accuse you of having a bad attitude,
they accuse you of projection,
of having accusations against leadership. So you can't be critical. You can't be critical, or they say that you're just fearful. You're being too fearful, and really we are just like these super loving, cuddly teddy bears. And so it's kind of like they gaslight you, and you're like, oh wow, why was I so afraid to actually like say something? Like, why was that? I should just remember this next time. I'll remember to say it next time, and then you do say it next time, and then it's okay. But then a little time passes, and they stop being nice, and they start doing the thing that you were afraid of them doing in the first place. And then so you're kind of just stuck in this constant limbo.
This is like what you said. Bad. Like we know we've got some information about, we know things that are going on right now. And we know some things that are being said in there specifically right now is the, if you're afraid to, because like people would be afraid, I would be afraid to say something, or I'd be afraid for other people to say things because I knew they would get in trouble. Like you'd be afraid to say something because or even to pray because you wouldn't be praying right or whatever.
Yeah, they would criticize everything you said.
Or your testimony is whatever. And so then they legitimately get onto you for that, or they call you names, or they whatever. There have been actual times when that's happened.
So you would have a prayer, and then a pastor or leader would go up there and just criticize this prayer that you prayed, and how it's not actually godly, and how it's not an actual prayer. And they had like, it was just criticism. And then they would get up there. So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Damned if you get up there and pray. Damned if you don't get up there and pray. In my opinion, it's still easier to just do nothing.
Yeah.
Because they really don't have much to go on.
Depends on if you're one of the ones they go after or not, though, too.
They will go after you, but how many times are they going to go after you?
Right. But like,
but I'm just saying.
The thing is, too, is that like, then you say, I'm afraid because of this happening. And they gaslight you and say, well, you are projecting and putting words into our mouth that we are going to be this way. When in reality, this stuff actually happened. So then they're making you think, oh, this never actually really happened.
Or you misinterpreted what was going on. And you're like, oh, why was I having, why
so
is
then
I
you're
so
just
afraid?
like, man, it's all on me. I'm the one. These people are perfect. And
well, I never thought that.
But you know what I mean? Like, they're the ones that are like doing it right, that are helping me, that are there for me, all that stuff. Yeah. But it's not true. It's like they legitimately did. You got to remember, they did the things you remember.
Did verbally assault, abuse, accuse, and hurt people, and it wasn't okay. And it's happening right now, and it's not okay. And there is no justification for it. And Jonathan and I will not stop talking about it, and will not stop exposing it.
Because what does this do? It makes you feel, so the whole thing about communication is that you have to like communicate all the time about everything, right? Mm-hmm. But then even in that, they tell you, we just want like regular conversation.
Yeah, so it's like, the love bomb me, like.
But then it's
like, why are you so worried about it? Why can't you just live? Just live in God. Just live in live free in love.
But then you don't do certain things, and then it's like, well, why aren't you talking about this?
You're not being deep enough. You got to be deep.
You got to be real. Tell me what's really going on in there.
Oh yeah.
Then it's like, sometimes it's like, if you don't respond on Slack fast enough, you're ignoring them or whatever.
Yes.
And so it's just like this whole, and then they would start asking like, how often do you look at Slack? Do you look at it? Whatever. And so people would have to give reports of how often and whether they respond or not. And it just like the communication thing. So then they tell you to communicate. And then if you don't do it enough or the way that they say, then you're being silent and you're basically causing the church to fail. Mm-hmm. Like the church, there's not going to be any more church now in 10 to 20 years.
So like your whole like Christianity is dependent on how much you're talking and how much personal information you're sharing.
But
it's not actually.
Not. And the thing is
that's how they make you feel.
I believe that they want that information.
100%.
I believe they want that because then they have the things.
They have your vulnerabilities. Right. They have your weak spots. They have your cares. They have your concerns. And they can better exploit them. They can better use them to their advantage.
Because they do it in both ways. They do it in the damaging, like put down, but then they also do it in the they know what you like and what gets you, so they can do that to kind of make you feel good if they want that. So it's like both things. They know where to go. But it was always weird to me, just the like amount of communication that was required. I mean, like now I'm out. I talk to people naturally just because they're friends or they're whatever. There's a naturalness of talking with people that you have, but when you're in there, it's like a forced, you must do this or you are almost to the point of like, you're not saved. They would get there.
Everything was you're not saved.
They would get to there with it.
Everything that was not approved was you're not saved.
And one thing I remember specifically, the pastor emeritus telling me, and this was, I don't remember if it was it's probably in regards to you, but like,
oh really?
It was like, it might have been my mom or somebody, like, whenever, you would go on a walk with another lady in the church or
Yeah.
whatever. And he did not like that
Mm-hmm.
because it was like, what are y'all talking about? You're
Mm-hmm.
just talking about and that like breeds all this bad stuff. It was like, I don't think personally he liked the women in there talking together because he just felt maybe attacked by it or whatever, because it was like, what are they talking about,
Well,
basically? So like, you
in
have to have
my
communication,
opinion,
but with the right people.
in my opinion, he has very negative views of women.
Right.
So that is also included
Right.
in that. But then also there's a level of like paranoia
Yes.
that something is afoot all
Right.
the time. And you know what? Something should be afoot. If something is wrong and it needs to be talked about, it needs to be talked about. But they're gonna just squash and
You know what's interesting about their whole communication thing is like, and I even preached on this, funny enough, but like, they use the Bible verses about not, I think it's in Timothy, about, not talking about things that are, pearls before swine, I think, and
yeah,
just different things where it's like, if it's not of God, then you don't talk about it.
I remember when we were talking to your sister and
Right.
the pastor Mantis being super like worried about us talking to her and saying to not entertain vain babblings.
That's it, vain babblings.
Yes.
But what that does now is like, they're all about communication, but now they won't communicate with us. They won't talk with us, and it's their reasoning is because it's just vain babblings. Like, that's their justification. But what it does is it isolates people. It isolates people from hearing anything else to only hearing them.
We definitely believe that individuals in there are being isolated even more now, being isolated from certain individuals on purpose.
Yeah.
Because of the information that we have is very damning to the leaders in there, and they do not want this information to be spread to their congregants. And so, but it's also something I really keep in the forefront of my mind, is that it is the people in there that are the victims. They are the victims in this situation. Not the leaders, but the congregants. And they're being abused right now, and they're being isolated, and they're being hurt right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we do what we do to expose that. We do what we do to tell them the tactics, to show them the patterns, so that they can then see how they're being used and abused.
And it's a cycle too. This communication silence thing, it comes up ever so often, and we know it's coming up again.
It comes up whenever they want the control back. They want to get people back into the pattern that they want them in. And
it's like
another abusive tactic that abusers do is they like kind of like they'll fake, or maybe not fake, but they'll create a problem, and then they make everybody kind of like come on in onto the problem. And there was a lot of that with the communicating thing. Of like, the communicating thing is like, it made everybody stop what they were doing and come back to the problem, come back to the issue, or try to get together again, or like everything in the sake of this unity. But it's really not unity. It's really just protecting the abusers, protecting the abuse that goes on.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's not actual unity. It's not actual love. It's making the people who are being hurt expose themselves more and more and more to their abuser, and they don't know that they can leave their abuser. They don't know that it's wrong. They just feel like, I've got to obey God, and I've got to worship God, and I've got to make sure I'm doing everything for God. That's what they're feeling. But they don't know that they're being forced into yet another cycle of abuse.
And what's interesting, like, that's a really good point, because it brings everybody's focus to this one thing, to communicating or whatever. And I would say 9 times out of 10 or more, that the event or the topic that is bringing that back up has to do either with money, and there's not enough money. So then, oh, y'all aren't communicating enough. We're not really working together to make the money. Or there's something at a pastor's house that needs to be taken care of. Y'all aren't communicating enough to make sure this gets done. Or there's something that's going on like that usually benefits the pastor, because the money's going to benefit the pastor, the house is going to benefit the pastor. So it brings everybody together, and the thing that they get the church to work in unity on always benefits the pastor. Never is a ministry thing.
They do it cased, and they like paint it, they whitewash it, and they say this is for God. Like this, if you don't care about people around you, how are you going to minister to souls?
Yeah.
So they'll get you in your feels. They'll get you in your affection, in your feels, in your love for God.
Yep.
And they'll get you to serve them instead of actually serving God.
It's just, I kind of, if you're seeing this like excessive communication push or silence, whatever, that's just like a force thing, that's like a red flag, big time. You can have normal interactions with people.
In our organization, the buzzwords were silence, and Pastor Emeritus would post this song by Simon and Garfunkel, The Sound of Silence, and it would just be to like troll all the people, because he wasn't getting enough information to hurt us with. So he needed more information.
That's our belief anyway.
Keep it up. We need this information to hurt you with. We need it.
Yeah.
And so sound of silence was another thing. Silence, communication, communicate. These are the buzzwords.
But anyway, thank you again for listening. We appreciate everybody that's been listening and sharing these, and we hope this has been helpful, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Bye.